you for asking me here. It's a pleasure. And some of you already met me by video in Finnish, but it's nicer to be face to face. So I come from Finland as Ilkka, but my University of Applied Sciences is located in the middle of Finland. The city is called Jyväskylä, which is very famous of its sport university, where also I have graduated and did my PhD. The applied university is called JAMK. JAMK is a middle-sized university, and I work there as a principal lecturer in the vocational teacher education. In Finnish system we have a special education for those who work as teachers in the applied universities and in secondary vocational schools. So my students are all adult and they have different background, from PhD to diplomers and everything in between. Why I'm here is also because I work as a chair of EPRIL. EPRIL is an association, international association based on practice-based research. So I have to say that according to my experience in EPRIL, I have some idea what practice-based research in Europe is now. And related to that, it seems to be that there are no clear definition what practice-based research is. So it's up to you how you define the Portuguese culture in practice-based research. Well, first I want to reflect also what Mr. Väänänen said, that this is about research. There are definitions what research is, but applied research, practice-based research, it's a special kind of research, and that we have to keep in mind. And in concrete, it means that we can't write applications which follow the structure of academic research. Academic research are quite often based on some research interest which comes from the domain or discipline or subject. And now we need to focus on research which is actually initiated by the practice. Okay, what is practice? Let's move on that.
What is the practice?
And as my colleague, Professor Heikkinen, just 1 week ago told us, there are many definitions what is practice-based research. So, quite many of you in the morning before lunch mentioned that their research is based on action research. Well, that is one kind of approach which you can put as an umbrella when you are doing the practice-based research. But in Europe, it's called in a many different way. And here is a collection of those. I had a talk with you who comes from the design area. Design?
I was told I do some things about design,
well,
but not from the back.
Yeah, sorry. Design-based research is very closely to the idea which we can use in practice-based research, which means that we create something, we test it, we create again, we revise it, and it's very practical what comes out. Beside practical things what comes out, there are some more academic outcomes. Publications, articles, videos, and so And in that sense, methodologically, we really do applied methodology. We do various kind of mixed methods. And as Väänänen said in the morning, in Polytechnics, it's quite often integrated into the research and development work and innovation processes. What we have to keep in mind is that we need to be aware of the ethical issues. So it's not that we are doing something in practice together with the practice or for the practice. We need to keep in mind the ethical issues in back of the research processes. And who are the researchers? They can be practitioners. They can be researchers by their own title. Researchers, I'm a researcher, I do research. But I can be a practitioner who do research. I can be a teacher, lecturer, professor who do research. I can be a student who do research. I can be a research assistant as a student. I can be the main researcher in doing my thesis. But most important is that you can somehow create a team of these different professionals. And when you are writing your applications to get funding for your practice-based research, maybe it's a good idea to mention that in our practice-based research we have a team where we have students from their first grade, they are doing this and this. From their second year, they are doing this and this. And these third year students, they are doing their internship. And the final year students, they are doing their thesis. So it's about combining all the knowledge and all the skills we have from these different professionals. Well, something about the practitioners, praxis. What we mean by that in practice-based research? It's up to you to decide what you mean by practice, because teaching is practice. And teachers can get something from the practice-based research, for example, new methods, teaching content. Workers in the workplace, employees in the workplace can be the practitioners. But you have to describe in your proposal what are the benefits for them. So you just describe that we understand as the practitioners these things. And we are improving the practice, which for us in this project means this and this. I was asked to focus more on the planning phase of the practice-based research. How does it differ or is similar to academic research? And in this slide is the description of logical framework. This is the framework we use in my university, in my unit, quite often when we do the practice-based research plan. And this logical framework structure differs from the academic research plan. Now I have to ask you which one of you is aware of this kind of structure?
One of you? Yes.
Yes, so I would say 4 people. Okay. When we start to do 4 of you, 5 of you. So this means that because I work as a teacher educator, I meet a lot of teachers from different domain, from different level of education. And when I have a talk with them, or when I visit the companies, I have a talk with them that what are they doing, what kind of problems they have, what kind of needs they have. And then I come to my unit, back to my faculty, and I start to discuss with my colleagues that, well, there is a certain need in that company, that can we make a project of that in order to answer to that need. And we organize a meeting. And we use this logical framework as a structure to develop the project plan. So, how this differs of the academic research plan, for me, it seems to be the outcomes. And what are the outputs? Outputs is the idea where you describe, or I describe, that what we are actually doing. And what is the student's role? What is the role of the other partners? What is the role of researchers, teachers? If we have a steering group, what is the role of the steering group? And we will finalize it to the activities we are doing. Because I'm a very pragmatic person, it's much more easier for me to start from the activities. So we fill in our proposal according to this. In this slide I have some questions which can open up a little bit the logical framework, but I think I don't go into the details in these questions, because if I'm aware, I think you can have my slides after this seminar. Detailed questions, by answering to this, you can follow the logical framework. When we are planning the practice-based research, we have three possibilities. These three dimensions, these three ideas, I also shortly presented in my previous presentations, but let's look at them more closely. So, I explained to you that when I visit the companies, I want to listen to the so-called silent signals, the needs the companies have. And so the process goes starting from the company, from the workplace, and then I come to the Polytechnics, and we organize a preparatory meeting, which is usually facilitated by a person who is not involved in the meeting, in the project. She just facilitates our discussion to make us say what we want, what are the needs, what are the aims, what are the outcomes. And during 1 or 2 hours, maybe one day we need, if we don't know each other before, we create the plan according to the logical framework. And then we start to make the research plan, consisting of how we integrate the degree programs into that plan, what is the student's role, how they are involved, and what are expected outcomes for the workplaces. Well, in this approach, the challenge is that how the Polytechnic gets the information from the workplaces. And that is a skill of teachers. How they are interacting with the working world. Okay, then we have another approach when we are making practice-based research. it's the idea which is initiated more from the curriculum. If you work as a teacher, a lecturer, a professor, you are dealing with some topic courses or modules at school, and you want to integrate working life into that process. Give a student chance to be involved. Actually, there are research made that if the students are involved in the working place practices during the studies, the better they are employed. So I would say that it's even necessary that we integrate workplaces and curriculum not only during the internship and in the thesis, but in different kind of activities. Okay, I have an idea, I work as a teacher, I teach some course, and then I know that I want to integrate our workplaces in that process. Again, we organize a meeting where I invite those workplaces that I know or my colleagues know can somehow have input or interest into this idea. We make a research plan according to the structure I showed you. And then, of course, there are challenges, questions. How is the working life and workplace involved in that project? How they can do it, how they want to do it, what is the benefits for them. And that is something we have to convince them in making that plan. And that is something you need to write in your proposals. What is the added value in this project for the workplaces? Okay, then is this third approach, which I think would be the perfect one. That after some years, when you are more experienced of doing practice-based research, I know that some of you are already doing practice-based research, but they are not funded, and they have been doing it in a smaller scale, only domain-based maybe, not doing it interdisciplinary. You have regulatory meetings with the workplaces, with the practical world. And in those meetings you are discussing that what is going on in the workplaces, what kind of challenges you have. For example, as we discussed during the lunch, that there are lack of competent people in the ICT sector. Okay, let's organize a project. How can we support practitioners to work in the ICT sector? Polytechnics role, teachers' role, professionals' role, professors' role, according to the study we made some years ago, it has been seen as a spider. Spider who creates a net around the region, around the local companies who have the similar interest. And again, we do a research plan, which is usually made by applied universities. Workplaces don't have effort for that. And again, we have some challenges, how the practice and research and learning are integrated. What are the benefits for the workplace, for the Polytechnic, and for the students? And these questions should be answered in the Polytechnic level, so that you don't have to consider these questions every time when you are doing the proposal. That you already know that, well, these are the general benefits for the Polytechnic. These are the general benefits for our program. And then I will focus focus a little bit to the evaluation of the project. I think we have been doing that already when we have been commenting at the proposals you have. So I have to say that if I would make this presentation now, I would change the next slide, but let's see what comes up. Well, most important is that you have the criteria for what is good practice-based research. And that is something which you have to decide here in Portugal, in your faculty, in your Polytechnics, and of course you can benchmark what we have in Europe already. But because every country, every domain, every discipline have his own culture, it's very difficult to step a huge leap, to make a huge leap and go somewhere where you are not now. You just have to gradually build your practice-based research practice. As I said that I work in the April, which is an association, we can help you. We announce yearly an award process for best practice-based practitioner research. And that is an open call for everyone in Europe. And this year's winner will be announced in our next yearly conference. More about that later on. Okay, there are national and polytechnic level criteria. As Mr. Väänänen said before, our government evaluates our RDI work, research, development and innovation work, which we can call practice-based research as well. For example, according to the criteria that how much external funding Polytechnic managed to get in the projects, how many study credits students are doing in those projects, and how many man-year has been involved in practice-based research. So these are the criteria which are maybe more national-based. On research level, I have only 3 of those criteria here, but one which was not actually mentioned in this morning or in the mentoring session we had before this presentation is the feasibility of the outcomes. That are the outcomes really something the practice can use? Practice, I mean teachers, practitioners in the workplaces, companies. Also, in the practice-based research, the process itself needs to be evaluated. That is important because it seems to be that practice-based research needs to add students involved. So how well the students feel that they have learned or their learning has been supported. And in order to make the process better, improve the processes in your faculty, in your polytechnics, it's important that you collect data of this and also you evaluate it. And also the quality of the research lab and the research project needs to be evaluated, and more about this in next slides. There are 4 quality dimensions: the methodological and theoretical dimension. Some of your project proposal mentioned that you do the literature review in the beginning. I think if that fits for your project, that is a good idea. That can be done by the students, for example, connected to their studies, that what is known already from this subject. As a theoretical dimension, also the knowledge about practices that we already have internationally can be a starting point for any project. For example, we had a project concerning footpath, creating a footpath to the forest. I think theoretical dimension means that in the baseline you can check what is already done in Europe, for example. It's not a literature review, but it's more like a practice review. Methodological means as a concept that you need to cover your project with some kind of methodological solution which fits for your purposes, action research or something else. Or you can use a very broad approach, methodological approach, but collect data with different kind of methods and analyze the data, different kind of data with different kind of data analyzing methods. Second dimension is the value for use. It's more like a technological dimension in that sense. It means that after the project you have something which is here. I can touch it, I can see it. And is it actually added value for the users or not? And how you evaluate that usefulness? Maybe you have to make an interview, questionnaire. Third criteria for the quality of this project is the capacity building and the value for people. That can those people who are the practitioners, can they really use it? That is very difficult to evaluate just after the project. Maybe you have to make a survey or some kind of data collection after 3 months or after a year, and that's a challenge because of the lifespan of the project or funding ends just after the project ends. Capacity buildings means that what kind of competencies has achieved during your project. And that thing was a little bit lacking in your project proposal today, what I heard so far. It means that if you produce something new, is that also a competence, lack of competencies to use that product? Then you have to add in your project a training process, some kind of short course for those who use this new application, if that is the case in your project. Related to the idea I mentioned already, the footpath, that how you actually train people to use the new footpath which has augmented reality equipment. So you have to train them, and adding that training process also to your application, it's the competence development, capacity building of the users. Then there is this economical dimension. It's important that you start to think about getting money of all those outcomes you have. It gives a little bit more value, actually, to the users. For example, some project we have been doing with the schools, vocational secondary schools. We ask some kind of money, a little bit money from them in order to participate to the project. Well, they ask that, well, why we give money for you? But we say that, well, if you give money, you will get this and this and this, and you will be the first users of this product. Somehow, it also challenges us as researchers, but also it challenges them to be involved, because they have put money on it. I will finalize my presentation with one example of a practice-based research project physiotherapy work and clinical education in physiotherapy. My background is a physiotherapist. I worked as a physiotherapy lecturer for 10 years in Lahti region where Ilkka comes from. But nowadays, after my PhD, I have been working as a teacher educator in another university. And there was a problem before we started this project. We had a problem in workplaces that the physiotherapist said that we don't take your students anymore. They don't know how to handle patients. They know about theory, but they don't have practical skills. And all those international students don't even ask. We are not taking them anymore. They take a lot of time to supervise them. And also they say that our curriculum is something else that we have in practice, so there is a huge gap. So we really have a practical problem in back of this project. So we sit together with the practitioners, those physios, with the professor from the academic university and with my teacher colleagues, and we start to make a research plan. And in that plan, in that application, we set four aims. We want to make physiotherapy practice more theory-based. We want to support the collaboration between Polytechnics and workplaces, hospital, private clinics. We want to improve the clinical education, the internship time in physiotherapy program. And we want to improve and modernize learning and teaching practices in the Polytechnics. We have one senior researcher who was the project leader, and she was from the academic university. We have three doctoral students. I was one of them, and we were like teacher researchers. So I teach at the same time, but I work as a researcher. Then we have many master students with their theses, and actually from the Polytechnics we have many bachelor students also involved in many different ways in their curriculum. We have 6 teachers who were more like target group from the Polytechnic, and 2 researchers and a doctoral students from the Polytechnic. So they like work as a researcher and as a teacher in the Polytechnic and in the academic university. And then we have 6 hospitals, healthcare centers and private physiotherapy clinics from that region where the school was. We got funding from the Ministry of Labour because we want to improve practice. We want to improve practice in hospitals, practice in schools. Our methodological approach was activity theory, which is created by Engström. So, and this is the theoretical frame. This activity theory fits very well for practice-based research because it's multidimensional approach. It analyzes the community who are involved in this project. It analyzes the rules there are inside the Polytechnics, inside the hospitals, also those rules which are not written rules, practices that are like tacit knowledge. What is the division of labor? What does the teacher do? What does the students do? What does the supervisors from the hospitals during teachers' internship, what they do? Subject, well, we are talking about patients, we are talking about clients. Is that the subject we are talking about? It seems to be in the beginning of the project was that school, Polytechnics, was not interested in patients. They were interested in students. But physios were interested in patients, but student was something else. So we found out that, well, we are talking about different things, even though we are doing the internship. We had a multi-method research. We had quantitative data, we collected qualitative data by interviewing written journals, questionnaires, video recordings, research diaries, and so on. And we analyzed different kind of data according to the sub-studies we have under this big project. We started with the literature review, as I already talked about literature reviews. We had a baseline situation analysis, then we set the aims, we made the action plan, and the main thing what we did was the development meetings, where the teachers, practitioners, and focus group students were involved. We published a lot. We didn't have any video outcomes because the project was conducted 10 years ago, and video recordings were not that typical then as an outcome. Of course, we used video recording as a tool for developing the physiotherapy practice and teaching practices. One of the practical outcomes was that the new practice of doing internship was created. It means that internship was not seen as a place for students to learn. Internship was seen as a place where teacher, physio, student meet, and they talk about physiotherapy as a main topic. How to improve physiotherapy by using the skills and knowledge all these three partners have. And it ended up with the changing physiotherapy practice in the hospitals, because some physios noticed that they haven't used the updated knowledge in treating patients. They had very experience-based practice of supervising students. They didn't know how to do it in a proper way. I will finalize my presentation giving you a challenge which you have already started to solve. What is practice-based research in Portuguese Polytechnics? What kind of methodological issues you are facing? If you are facing methodological issues, why don't you create a community of practice-based researchers which meets once a year, twice a year, together with the policymakers, with those ones who may fund your research, and you talk about these issues. What about publication forums? Where to publish? As Mr. Väänänen said, in Finland we had a need to create a forum, a platform to publish practice-based research. And that's the reason Polytechnics, the directors, presidents of Polytechnics get together, and they decided to open an open access journal where this kind of research got a place to be published. Well, of course there are many other publication forums, but maybe it's time for you to start with that kind of open access journal because it's very easy to use. Then you need to make the evaluation criteria. which I think we are now developing in these seminars, that what is actually practice-based research in Portugal? If there is an answer, I think Professor Beira and his colleague would have sent it to you. Just deliver it, answer to these evaluation criteria and submit your papers. But you are now in the creation process. Yes, my background is in April Association, which is an international association for practice-based researchers on learning, professional development, and corporate learning. Corporate learning refers to those persons who work in the companies or enterprises, and their main task is to support learning in the company in a non-formal and informal ways. And I'm happy to announce at this call that the next our conference will take place in Porto. The last week in November, where you will meet around 400 practice-based researchers from different countries from Europe. The first day is a day for so-called pre-conference, where we organize school visits and company visits around Porto, and also we have that day for so-called master students. So they are those students who are doing their theses in practice-based research way, and they have international opponents for their work. Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, it's the main conference where the researchers meet each other. This conference, typical for this conference, comparing to academic ones, is the interaction. We give a lot of space for questioning, discussing, and sharing ideas, finding networks. And the presentations are really not academic presentations, they are practice-based presentations. So please, look at our website. There is a special prize for Portuguese participants. And you are free to contact me if you have any questions. I heard already in July that the Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Science is also interested in this conference. Thank you.